Two parents in Florida who are only identified as Cindy and Fred are under investigation after they allowed their 11-year-old son to play basketball in his own yard without parental supervision for 90 minutes. Now, apparently, a neighbor saw the boy playing outside by himself, and she alerted the authorities. And that was when Child Protective Services arrived and took him and his younger brother away from the parents and put them in foster care. Now, this story recently broke, and thankfully, the parents were able to very recently get their sons back. However, it was a nightmare for them to do so because apparently CPS was arguing that the kid was in some danger because he didn't have access to food, he didn't have access to a bathroom, he was locked out of the house. Apparently, they were all going home together, and somehow their 11-year-old son beat them by 90 minutes. And so since he didn't have keys to the home, he was just playing hoops outside in his front yard, and apparently that's a big issue in this country.
Okay, so this is obviously ridiculous. The trauma to the kids by the second kid's 4 years old, by taking them out of their house, putting their parents in jail, okay, for a brief period of time, right? They book them, the whole thing, right? And putting the kids into foster care. The trauma done there is 1,000 times worse, right, than a kid playing basketball for 90 minutes in his own yard. Okay, so there's a twist coming up here for me. Okay, it's not as easy an issue as you think. Not in this specific case, but in a macro sense. But let's dispense with this. Of course their CPS is wrong here, right? Look, you got to use common judgment, man, common sense. When you show up here, you got the nosy neighbor who annoys me more than anyone else in this story. Like, I know you think you're trying to do the right thing. I hope you're coming at it with the right intent and you care for the kid and stuff. He's playing basketball. He's fine. He's fine. Look, when I was a kid, I'd go over to Dope's house. I'd be gone for hours. I'd go walk the whole neighborhood with JT. We'd go biking across the turnpike. It was a terrible idea, but we all survived. Not the turnpike, but Route 18 in New Jersey. Anyway, because there was porn on the other side. Anyway, okay, so, and one time my parents forgot to pick me up from soccer practice, okay? And it was my birthday. Oh, schmoopy papoopy. And they left me there accidentally for 3 hours. Okay. Now, there's no cell phones back then, right? Now, some people would be still talking to their therapist over it. Oh, my God, it traumatized me. Okay. It's okay, man. It's okay. You survived. We used to be hunted by lions and killed in the middle of the night by snakes and chimpanzees that ripped our face off. We're going to be all right if we play basketball for 90 minutes in our own yard.
Yeah, it's amazing that there's no uniform policy, I feel like, when it comes to child neglect, right? Because in this case, this is considered child neglect, and then you have other stories where children are actually being neglected and parents get a pass. And I don't understand how it works. But one real quick thing that I want to say is, for all the people out there that are concerned about child neglect and they want parents to keep a watchful eye on them at all times, you know, one really good thing to push for is, let's say, maternity leave, to make sure that parents can stay home and watch their kids for a little while before they go back to work. That's step number one.
Communist.
Step number two would be to create a system where you have affordable childcare, because the reality is, look, both parents have to work these days, considering how low wages are and considering how low salaries are. So if both parents have to work, who's going to watch the kid? Well, then you get childcare, right? How expensive is childcare? So you know what happened when I was a kid? I think I was 8 years old when my mom started leaving me home alone. Keeping it real, all right?
Yeah, I know a lot of guys. One friend of mine that I grew up with had to take care of his younger brother starting at the age of 8.
That's exactly what I had to do.
Right,
yeah.
and he was the caregiver at that point. Because that's what you had to do, and then you did it, and they survived, and they were fine. Look, would we prefer that it be different? Of course. Is it overall a good thing that we've gotten a little bit more careful about that stuff? Yes. Yes, it is, okay? But there is bounds of reason. They have clearly exceeded it here. You know one of the reasons they flipped out? Like, the child had no access to water for 90 minutes. So what? First of all, it's not even true. He had a hose.
Yeah, not only that, there's like, he had a hose. He had a hose. There was also some sort of barn or something in the back. It's Florida, like in the backyard, where they had like a sink that actually worked. So he did have access to things. And then Child Protective Services was like, well, what about snacks? Did he have snacks?
Oh, he didn't have snacks for 90 minutes. Okay, heaven forfend. Okay, So now, the nuance here is what Anna was referring to. Look, Child Protective Services has a very hard job, and it's a big country, and from time to time, some people that work in Child Protective Services in different areas will go in the wrong direction on either side, right? So some will not care enough to check in on children they should have checked in on.
Right.
You know, you had a case of domestic abuse, and they didn't bother to go back check. Oh no, that's terrible, right? Or there'll be some political reason why, oh, you know what, those parents lawyered up, and so we weren't as concerned about their drug use, but those poor parents didn't have the money to lawyer up,
right.
and we went and took their kids away. I mean, there's a million ways that they go wrong, and this is one of the ways where they overstep, where they're
Absolutely.
overly careful, right? But it doesn't mean you don't need them. See, that's the mistake that people make. They go, okay, oh, this is an abuse, in this case, of their authority, and then people will jump in and go, Child Protective Services, it's the government. In fact, the guy, the killer, the Dallas, well, he didn't get to kill anybody, thank God. The shooter in Dallas, who the snipers took out, that went and attacked the police, his dad said, after the shooting, he said, the real culprit here wasn't the police. No, first of all, the real culprit was your son who tried to murder the police, right? He said the real culprit was Child Protective Services that took his son away. He went and put 4 bombs and bought a zombie van and shot up the cops. Child Protective Services, congratulations, perfect job. You should have clearly taken his son away. He had threatened his whole family. Not a whole family, but different people in his family. See, you need someone to protect the kids when the parents are neglectful or or much worse, right? When they're on drugs or they're dangerous. They got
Absolutely.
Guns around the house. They've threatened other people. There's domestic violence. You need someone to protect the kids, but it doesn't mean they're going to do their job perfectly. And if they don't, it's our place to say, hey, you know what? You were wrong here.